Okay, so welcome, Tony DADA, your sole purpose coach here, just bringing you another vlog. Here in the vlog is where we kind of go deep and dissect and break down some of the things that I've been writing in my most recent blogs. And so, of course, to help me ensure that we bring out the right questions for you and give you the right insights, the new insights for this new era, I have my young protege, none other than Natty in the house. Natty, are you there?
Hey Uncle, can you see me?
Yep, 100%. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. So here we are again. And so what's the subject? What we're going to be talking about today?
So today we're going to be speaking about a topic from your blog, which is what's the quality of your thinking?
Right.
So you touched on in the blog in the very beginning about self-deprecating thoughts, saying, I am not good enough. I might not be able to do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like it relates to a lot of us during this whole pandemic of saying, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
some people may have
Okay.
lost their jobs, or they don't know what they're going to do in terms of their kids, in terms of what they're going to do next, or trying to find an enterprise that would work, or an enterprise that they started before the lockdown started that halted them. So we're just going to be touching on the quality of thoughts today.
Okay, right. So, I mean, we literally haven't rehearsed anything. You just brought the question and we just have a chat and have a
Yeah.
conversation and let it just flow. I mean, the first thing that I would say directly as a result of that is we are now living in a new era. A revolution took place last year. I mean, it was happening anyway. If you know, since 2013, I've been kind of warning people like, get ready. And the getting ready was do a mind reset, change your thinking. But of course, as is usually the case, most people are like, who is this crazy guy? What's he saying? But the revolution actually happened last year, and everybody who had heard what I've been saying for 7, 8 years previous saw it actually play out, that there was a major disruption, and every single person on the planet had to reevaluate and rethink about where they're coming from and where they're going. But there lies the problem, because everyone had to rethink. But the fact is, majority of us have not been taught how to think. So now you're faced with this major crisis and you're having to figure your way out, but you don't know how to figure your way out because no one's taught you how to think. What you've been taught is how to go to school, go to college, get a job, and then retire. And that's what you've been taught or instructed how to do. Now you have to think your way out of this situation. It's a problem. And so, because many people haven't been taught how to think, well, you can imagine that's just like mental overload. I've got all of this stuff going on, losing my income, losing my job, or losing my business. My relationship's under strain now because, like we're both going through this. Money's too tight to mention. That means now we can't do our holidays, we can't have enjoyment, we can't go out, we can't give the children the things that they need. Like all of these things happening simultaneously, that's going to have a massive blow to the unconditioned mind. And there lies the solution. In that, what we do is show people how to think. And a lot of people, when I used to say this 20 years ago, people would actually feel insulted, and it's not an insult. But like you actually don't know how to think. Many of us don't know how to think, and so we're going to be doing more work in this space to actually break things down to show people that imagine if you could take a test, so you don't have to have a conversation with anyone, and you do a test, and by the scores that you come up with, that will tell you whether you have poverty thinking as a style or a style of thinking, prosperity thinking as a style of thinking, abundance thinking as a style of thinking, or stinking thinking as a style of thinking. And that way you get to see the scores and it equates, and then it's on you. You either do nothing about it or you do something about it. Because we literally have to go back to the drawing board, or should I say, I used to say go back to school, but it's not go back to school, it's go to school for the first time. Because what we were doing, the educational system that you've been fed in the West, you know, respectfully, I've been in the educational system. They weren't teaching you how to become successful. They were teaching you how to be a slave, a modern day slave, meaning go get a job, work, make lots of profits for people who you don't know or see, and we'll just pay you crumbs. And I'm so excited because the revolution that's here is saying, nah, that ain't gonna happen. Young folk want more than that. People want more than that. So it's about how do you think? Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, well,
Kind of
that
went around
briefs
the houses a little bit, but you know,
that briefs the topic. But in terms of how to think,
okay.
it's it's I can give an example. When I first came to you and didn't have a job, as you said many times, I was unemployable.
Yeah. But why did I say you was unemployable? I wasn't trying to insult you,
What?
but because I asked you a few questions, and by the things that you said, you know, one of my sayings, as you know, is our words betray our thoughts. So I pay attention to what comes out of someone's mouth. And so if I ask you a few questions and I hear what you're saying, I'm like, I can't do anything with this guy because what's coming out of his mouth, it can't work. So that's where that came from. But back over to you.
Yeah. So it came to a point where how you taught me how to think was you said to me, okay, you've identified your issue. Now you have to think about ways to solve it. Because before I would see an issue and I'm like, yep, done. It's all going to hell. But first you taught me how to identify an issue and then employ my mind. The keyword you said was employ my mind to find a solution. You could speak to friends, you could speak to family, you could speak to someone who's older or younger than you who would advise you on the situation so you can have an outside opinion. Because you always said, I don't know what I don't know. And it's true. So that helped me be more assertive and more tactical in my thinking. So if I've come across a situation and I don't know what to do, I wouldn't try to blag my way through. I would first seek advice.
Well, okay, got you. So, but there you go. You just told everybody the sequence, the strategy of how to think. You see, number one, particularly in our community, like we be faking it so much, and we be faking it and making it look like everything is good, when deep inside we stressing, we worried, like we ain't got like a clue as to how this thing is going to get resolved. And so, you know, my number one thing is, first of all, keep it real with yourself. Be 100% real. So
Yeah.
here is the problem. But rather than being fear-based, because fear just creates paralysis, the question to ask yourself is, okay, what is my challenge? What is the issue? This is how we learn how to think, because now it's objective. You take your emotion out of the equation and just look at what is in front of you. And as you know, we go really deep into, because everything that I do really comes from that spiritual place. And the reason why is because it allows you to engage all of you. What do I mean by that when I say that? Well, you have a physical body, you have an emotional body, you have a mental body, and the mental body links to the spiritual body. So if you don't understand how you're thinking, you can't harness all of your energy from all of those different levels. So this is why it's important to understand how you think and employ your mind. So here you are, you've identified the challenge and you've identified a problem. Now you're like, okay, I know what it is. I'm not going to be fearful about it. So this isn't the time for my emotions to get involved. this is the time for me to identify what is the issue. Yeah. And that is, that when I talk about the mind, I talk about the left brain and the right brain, and understanding that even there is a learning to gain in terms of how our mind is actually constituted. So we won't go into the deepness of it today, but when you're identifying what the challenge is, that's you employing your left brain, because your left brain is very analytical, it's very clinical, it's very exact and to the point. And that's why it's left brain thinking, or some call it sort of masculine thinking, because men generally, we just like to get straight to the point. What's the problem so I can solve it? So once we've identified what the issue is, then we employ the right brain. And the right brain is really about creativity. It's about exploring. It's about a holistic approach. So now we've identified what the problem is. And so now we're looking for ways to solve it, creative ways. And that's why I would say to you, okay, Natty, you know what the problem is? Then ask somebody, seek advice, seek guidance, seek counsel, explore different options. And so now you might have half a dozen different possibilities of how this problem can get solved. Now you're equipped. You can take your time and you can look at these different options and say, okay, which one do I think is going to be the best one? And you can take your time and work it out. And then when you've worked out and you think, you know what, that's the one I think is the best solution. Now you can employ your mind, your emotions, and your spirit. Like you can get excited that this is the one that I'm going to employ to solve this issue. Yeah. Question is, how many of us think like that? We just go straight to fear, or like you said, straight to hell. Like, take me now. Like, I'm done. Yeah, give up. And we laugh about it, but it ain't no joke. That's why till this day, I think I was reading somewhere that for men aged around 50, suicide is the number one killer. Not any sickness, suicide. That's guys saying, I'm done. Like, I can't handle this. I'm gonna take my own life. And women are catching up. The statistics were saying that last year, the numbers have increased significantly. Wow. So all of that points to showing and proving that what I'm saying is not just air, I'm not just talking. The facts back it up. Do you know what it takes for someone to get to the point in their mind, in their thinking processes, where they decide, I'm gonna take my life? And if for men who are age 50, you think by the time a man or a brother's got to an age of 50, he's lived a whole lot of life and figured stuff out. But rather than growing and experiencing abundance, it's going the other way, to the point that he gets to a point where he says, I am done. The biggest killer. It tells you everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to sound morbid, but it definitely stops you in your tracks and makes you think, like, okay, so basically, as if you're a young cat who's like 25 or 30, you're thinking, how does someone get to that point? And even more worrying, are you on the road to that destination and don't even know it yet?